The meaning of mysticism. Is it harmless to keep on with smoking? No, for tobacco is poison. Better to do without it. What are the passions? They are the same force as is used in meditation, only diverted into other channels. Do you recommend that meat and alcoholic drinks be given up? Yes. It is advisable to give them up because this abstention is a useful aid for beginners. The difficulty in surrendering them is not that they are really necessary, but merely because we have become inured to them by custom and habit. Till the mind is firm in realization, it must have some picture or idea to think of, else the meditation will quickly give place to sleep or wandering thoughts. Yes, meditation in early morning upon arising is the best time because mind is then free of thoughts, cares, etc. Regarding meditation in a group or alone, the latter is advisable for beginners, but we must learn to advance to the point where we create our own mental solitude. Then it does not matter where we are. We must learn to find solitude mentally in the midst of society. We should not give up our meditation because we are among people, but carry it on even then. But do not do it ostentatiously. Do it secretly, inwardly. Do not make a physical exhibition of the fact that you are meditating. When attention is directed toward objects and intellect, mind is aware only of these things. That is our present state. But when we attend to the self within, we become conscious of it alone. It is therefore all a matter of attention. Our mind has for so long been attending to external things that the latter have enslaved it and dragged it hither and thither. It is said that the yogi should sit on a deerskin for meditation, as this prevents loss of magnetism during meditation. It is not necessary to use one. The earth will not rob you of the effects of your meditation because you do not happen to use a deerskin. It is good that you have given up smoking. Men are enslaved by tobacco and cannot give it up. But tobacco only gives a temporary stimulation to which there must be a reaction with craving for more. It is also not good for meditation practice. If the mind wanders, we must at once realize we are not the body and inquire, "Who am I?" And the mind must be brought back to realize the self. Thus all evils are destroyed, and happiness is realized. You can meditate with eyes open or shut, whichever suits you best. It differs with different people. The real sight is when the mind looks through the eyes. If it is not looking through them because it is occupied with some interior things, it does not see, though the eyes are open. Similarly, noises. If you pay attention to them, you hear them. But if you persistently pay attention only to the self within, you will not hear them. The mind is fickle and wandering. How do I control it? If you at once direct your attention to the question, who is the individual to whom this fickleness occurs, the tossing of the mind to and fro ceases. There is a subtle essence in all food. It is this which affects the mind. Hence, for those who are endeavoring to practice meditation to find the self, there have been dietetic rules laid down which it is advisable to follow. Sattvic, pure foods promote meditation, whereas rajasic, active, excitable, meat, and tamasic, dull, food, hinder it. How are lust and anger, etc., overcome? By dhyana, that is, by holding on to a single thought and putting off all other thoughts. What is to be meditated on? Anything you prefer, but you should stick to one thing. Contemplation means fight. As soon as you begin meditation, other thoughts will crowd in. Gather force and try to sink the single thought. The latter must gain strength by repeated practice. This battle always takes place in meditation. Peace of mind is brought about by contemplation. to the absence of varying thoughts. When dhyana is well established, it cannot be given up. It will go on automatically even when you are engaged in work, play, or even sleep. It must become so deep-rooted that it is natural. Is heart the same as the physiological heart? No, it is all meant to help the aspirant. It is only the source of the I thought. That is the ultimate truth. Seek your source. The search takes you automatically to the heart. By yogic practice, one starts with the lowest chakra, wheel or center, goes down and then rises up, wanders all through until the brain center or the thousand-petal lotus is gained. By jnana practice, one settles down in the heart center directly, the heart chakra of yogis called anahata, traditionally the fourth chakra on the sushumna, or central subtle channel, centered in the middle of the chest, is not the same as this heart. If so, why should they progress further on to sahasrara, the seventh and topmost subtle center located in the crown of the head? Moreover, the question arises, because of the sense of separateness persisting in us, we are never away from that center. Before reaching anahata, or after passing it, one is only in the center, whether one understands it or not. One is not away from the center. Practice of yoga or vichara remains in the center only. What is pranayama? Prana is equivalent to self, soul, atma, etc., as it is to the life current or whatever name you give it. Pranayama is the control of the body, the senses, and the intellect, through the breath. Mind is thus controlled and thus dies down with this practice. Mind and prana originate from the same source. By control of breath, the mind subsides, and then an unconscious blank state is produced, a swoon or trance-like death. Although that state is the natural state, the man who has not controlled the mind is dazed and is merged in it. It is a state of great peace, true, but it is temporary, and when it ends, the yogi wants to get it back again, and so he does his breath control again. It is necessary for him to go beyond pranayama and to gain direct control of the mind, and thus practice a permanent peace, sahaja samadhi, not merely temporary samadhi. The thing is to get the capacity to bring mind to peace, to make it still, and not allow it to wander. For that pranayama is given out as instruction. Retention of breath leads to contemplation that is for the advanced man. Puraka, inhalation, is the beginning. Then comes kumbhaka, retention, and last is rechaka, exhalation. Pranayama is useful only insofar as it helps to get mind control. For those who seek mental peace, this is enough. But there is a highly detailed, complicated pranayama for those who seek siddhis, occult powers. Pranayama is for one not endowed with the strength to control the mind. There is no way so sure as the sage's company for this purpose. Pranayama need not be exactly as described in Hatha Yoga. If engaged in devotion or meditation, just a little control of breath will suffice to control mind. Mind is the rider and breath is the horse. Pranayama is a check on the horse. By that check, the rider is checked. It may be done just a little. Watching the breath is one way to do it. The mind is abstracted from all activities and engaged in watching the breath. That controls breath and, in its turn, the mind. If you are unable to do rechaka and puraka, it does not matter. Breath may be retained for a short while during meditation. Then, too, good results will accrue. Regulation of breath is gained by watching its movements. Similarly, if the mind is watched, the thoughts will cease too. That is what the mind quest really is. Some meditation brings about suspension of the breath, while vice versa, the mind ceases to be restless after some breath control. Control of mind spontaneously affects control of breath, or kumbhaka. The persons who use breath control especially are those who are practicing by themselves without a guru's presence. Then the mind becomes controlled as a result. But mind control spontaneously begins to arise in the presence of a superior power, like a guru. When life is in peril, the whole interest begins to center round saving it. Similarly, when the breath is held in pranayama, the mind cannot afford to jump at its accustomed external objects. Thus, there is rest for it, so long as the breath is held. Since all attention is being turned on the breath and its regulation, other interests are lost. Thought and respiration are both different aspects of the same individual life current upon which both depend. If respiration is forcibly repressed, thought follows suit and is fixed to the usual dominant thought. If thought is forcibly slowed down and pinned to a point, the vital activity of respiration is slowed down, made even and confined to the lowest level compatible with the continuance of life. Thus the mind grasps the subtle and merges into it. Control of breath calms the mind. Then see who is aware of the calmness. Mechanical pranayama will not lead one to the goal. It is only an aid. While doing it mechanically, take care to be alert in mind and remember the I thought and seek its source. Then you will find that where prana sinks, there the I thought arises. They sink and arise together. The I thought also will sink along with prana. Simultaneously, another luminous and infinite I will manifest, and it will be continuous and unbroken. That is the goal. It goes by different names: God, Bhakti, Jnana, etc. When the attempt is made, it will of itself take you to the goal. What is the difference and effect of the three methods? Inquiry, Bhakti, and control of breath. Kumbhaka is an aid to control mind, i.e., suppression or annihilation of thoughts. One may practice pranayama, rechaka, puraka, and kumbhaka, or practice only kumbhaka. Still another, anayani, on controlling the mind. Control of the prana and kumbhaka automatically results. Watching the inhalation and expiration is also pranayama. These methods are threefold, apparently. They are in fact only one, because they lead to the same goal. They are, however, adopted differently according to the stage of the aspirant and his antecedent vasanas, latent tendencies, conditioning, or samskaras, predispositions. Breath control is meant for one who cannot directly control his thoughts. It serves as a brake, serves a car. But one should not stop with it but proceed to concentration and contemplation. The postures help breath control, which helps contemplation, hence Hatha Yoga, which is also a cleansing process. I hear the psychic sounds of nada, divine sound, bell, echoes. If you look upon it objectively, you are likely to lose yourself in it. One sound after another would come, and then there would be a blank. But remember to look who it is that hears these sounds. If you hold your inner self firmly, it will be immaterial whether you hear them or not. Keep the subject in view. Nada yoga is certainly one of the methods to concentration. But after you have obtained the concentration, fix it in the self. But if the subject is lost sight of, then go to laya or blankness. To one who fixed his attention to sight between eyebrows but felt no progress, the Maharshi said that the sight is fixed but the seer was not kept in view. If the seer is remembered always, then it will be all right. What is the difference between meditation and self-inquiry? Meditation can only occur if the ego is maintained. There is the ego and the object meditated upon. This method is indirect. On the contrary, by seeking the ego's source, the ego disappears. What is left over is self. This method is the direct one. One of the obstacles of meditation to overcome is laya, temporary stillness, a lull. Hence, the teacher who composed the Bhagavad Gita said, "Practice moderation in sleep. This means 4 to 5 hours sleep." Fakirs who tried to cut sleep altogether went to ascetic extremes which are unnecessary. Excessive sleep may be caused by overeating or overexertion, so moderate these things too. Deep sleep is not possible in daytime, as the sun's rays have a peculiar effect preventing it. Hence, if you doze in daytime, it is very easy to turn that into meditation, as it is close to that condition. As regards sleep, the moment you wake up, be alert, and begin to think of God, self. Keep alert throughout the day. Practice the presence of God. The second obstacle is the mind turning to external objects. When that is overcome, then the third obstacle is the meditator forgets that he is there to practice meditation. Then the fourth obstacle arises, the mind working internally. If it is difficult to control the mind, there is control by breath, which comes from practice alone. Otherwise, by association with the wise, the mind comes under control spontaneously. Such is the greatness of satsanga, association with the wise. It must be clearly understood that for meditation it is not prohibited to practice without postures, fixed times, or other accessories. Any posture for Europeans? It is according to the mental equipment of the individual, no fixed rule. What about those not accustomed to vegetarian diet? Habit is only adjustment to the environments. It is the mind that matters. The fact is that the mind has been trained to think certain foods are tasty. Nourishment may be obtained from vegetarian food no less than from flesh. But the realized man's mind is not influenced by the food he takes, but do it gradually. That is, getting accustomed to vegetarianism. But if it is a matter of non-killing that even plants have life, so too have the tiles upon which you are seated. Why do you take milk and not eggs? Domesticated cows yield more milk than their calves require, and they find it a pleasure to be relieved. Eggs contain potential lives. I have practiced dhyana on Aham Brahmasmi. In a few moments a blank prevails, my mind gets heated, and I get a fright of death. I want your guidance. Who seeks the blank? The consciousness overlooking the blank is the self. The fright of death is only after the thought arises. Whose death do you fear? For whom is that fear? There is the identification of the self with the body. So long as there is this, there will be fear. The spiritual heart is different from the physical heart. Beating is the phenomenon only of the latter. The former is the seat of experience. Just as a dynamo supplies the motive power to whole systems of light, spans, etc., so the original Shakti supplies energy to the beating of the heart, respiration, etc. What of chakras? Atma alone is to be realized. Its realization holds all else in its compass. Shakti, siddhis, etc. are all included in it. Those who speak of these have not realized the Atman. Atma is in the heart and is the heart itself. The manifestation is in the brain. The passage from heart to brain might be considered to be through Sushumna. Yogis say the current rising up to Sahasrara ends there. That experience is not complete. For Jnana, they must come to the heart. Hridaya, heart, center or core, is the alpha and omega. Explanation of the experience of blazing light in the last chapter of A Search in Secret India. It is said that yogis experience during the course of their yogic exercises several lights and colors before they actually realize the self. Once upon a time, Parvati, the consort of Shiva, did penance to attain the eternal. She saw certain lights. As they were all felt and seen by her senses, she concluded that those lights did not constitute the eternal. After a long penance, she beheld a very powerful light. She came to the same conclusion, that this light also did not constitute the eternal. Then, after severe penance, she attained peace, and then concluded that the self is the eternal. The existence of things is seen only through light. Then how can it be wrong to say that it is that light by which one realizes oneself? The knowledge of realizing oneself is that light. During Nirvikalpa Samadhi, it exists as the knowledge by which one is enabled both to see the light seen in Samadhi and also that which is beyond that light. It is not ignorance. Then it can be said that it is not light. Concentration is not thinking on more than one thing. It is putting off all other thoughts which obstruct the vision of our true nature. Now it appears difficult to quell the thoughts, whereas in the regenerate state, it will be found more difficult to call it thoughts. For are there then things to think of when there is the self alone? Thoughts can function only if there are objects. How can thoughts arise at all? Thought makes us believe that it is difficult to cease thinking. If the air is found, one would not be fool enough to exert oneself unnecessarily by way of thinking. What path do you advise? We need your grace. Be still, do not think, and know that I am. When the news of the devotee's marriage was conveyed to the Maharshi, someone asked, "Why has he done this? Surely he will not fall back." The Maharshi laughed and said, "Why should marriage interfere with his spiritual progress? Unless satisfaction of bodily wants such as hunger, thirst, and evacuation of excreta, etc. is done, meditation cannot progress." The results of vichara meditation are willpower, developed concentration, control of passions, indifference to the worldly objects, virtue, and equality to all. Hypnotic methods are not advisable to induce yogic samadhi, because light-gazing stupefies the mind and produces catalepsy of will temporarily, and it secures no permanent benefit. A deity may be used to meditate upon as a mental image until the meditator merges into the self. Then the image will fall away of its own accord, and the deity will vanish as part of the world illusion. Only the Supreme Self is to be the object of meditation. Truly speaking, meditation is remaining fixed in self. But when thoughts cross the mind and the effort is made to eliminate them, the effort is termed meditation. Remain as you are. That is the aim. The technique of meditation is negative only insomuch as thoughts are kept away. I have no peace of mind. Peace is our real nature. It need not be attained. Our thoughts must be obliterated. The Gita method is the one to do it. Whenever mind strays away, bring it back to bear on meditation. I cannot bring my mind to meditate. An elephant, when free, puts its trunk here and there and looks restless. If a chain is given to it, the trunk holds it without being turned this way and that as before. In just the same way, the mind is restless if it has no aim. If an aim is fixed, the mind is restful. Concentration is impossible so long as there are samskaras. They obstruct bhakti also. Practice and dispassion are necessary. Dispassion is the absence of diffuse thoughts. Practice is concentration on one thought only. Firm perseverance is also necessary. The one is positive and the other is a negative aspect of meditation. Yes, our minds are weak. The help called grace is necessary. Service to the Guru is only to obtain that. In the presence of a strong-minded soul, Guru, the weak mind comes under control more easily. That which is grace. There is nothing else. What is the best way to get rid of thoughts? Is it the mind that tries to kill itself? How can the thief catch himself? It cannot be. So the best way is to try to realize your real nature, what you really are. When we see ourselves, then there are no thoughts to be got rid of. How may the mind be controlled? There are two methods. One is to see what the mind is, then it subsides. The second is to hold something, and control of the mind comes therewith. Yoga serves to concentrate the mind. The predominant idea keeps off all others. The object is according to the individual. My mind is not steady in meditation. Whenever it wanders, turn it inward again and again. The mind is too weak. Strengthen it by practice, by reducing the thoughts to a single one. How to meditate, with eyes open or closed? It may be done either way. The point is that the mind must be introverted and kept active in its pursuit. Sometimes, when the eyes are closed, the latent thoughts rush forth with great vigor. It may also be difficult to introvert the mind with eyes open, as that requires strength of mind. When the mind takes in objects, it is contaminated. The main factor is to keep off other thoughts and to keep the mind in its own pursuit, without taking in external impressions or thinking of other matters. How to control thoughts? The wavering of mind is because of its weakness, due to the dissipation of its energy in the shape of thoughts. When one makes the mind stick to one thought, the energy is conserved and the mind becomes stronger. Strength of mind is gained by practice, as the Gita points out. In the earlier stages, mind reverts to the search only at long intervals, but with continued practice it reverts at shorter intervals until finally it does not wander at all. It is then that the dormant Shakti manifests and the mind resolves itself into the life current. How to get rid of the mind? Is it the mind that wants to kill itself? The mind cannot kill itself. So your business is to find the real nature of the mind. Then you will find there is no mind. When the self is sought, the mind is not. Abiding in the self, one need not worry about the mind. The illumination is experienced in the right side of the chest and the heart when the self is realized. Kundalini and chakras exist for beginners who practice that path of yoga. But for one who is practicing self-inquiry, they do not exist. Aham Brahmasmi is only a thought. Who says it? Brahman does not say so. What need is there for him to say it? Nor can the real Aham say so, for Aham only abides as Brahman. Saying it is only a thought. Whose thought is it? All thoughts are from the unreal, the ego. Remain without thinking. So long as there is thought, there will be fear. So long there is thought even of Aham Brahmasmi, there will be forgetfulness. Aham Brahmasmi is only an aid to concentration. It keeps off other thoughts. That one thought alone persists. See whose is that thought. It will be found to be from I. Wherefrom is the I thought? Probe into it. I thought will vanish. The Supreme Self will shine by itself. No effort is there. When the one real I remains alone, it will not be saying, I am Brahman. Does a man say, I am a man? Unless he is challenged, why should he declare himself a man? Does anyone mistake him for a brute that he should say, no, I am not a brute, I am a man? Similarly, Brahman or I being alone, there is no other to challenge it, and so there is no need to be saying, I am Brahman. Why should I meditate on heart? Because you seek consciousness. Where else can you find it? Can you reach it externally? You have to find it internally. Therefore you are directed inward. Again, heart is only the seat of consciousness. On what should we meditate? Who is the meditator? Ask that question first. Remain as the meditator. Then there is no need to meditate. It is the sense of doership that is the impediment to dhyana. Why does not the mind sink into the heart, even while meditating? A floating body does not readily sink unless some means are adopted for doing so. Pranayama makes the mind quiescent. The mind must be alive and meditation pursued unremittingly, even when it is at peace. It sinks into the heart. Or the floating body might be loaded with weights and made to sink. So also satsanga will make the mind sink into the heart. Satsanga is both out and in. The externally visible guru pushes the mind inward. He is also in the hearts of the seekers, and so he draws the inward bent mind into the heart. This question is asked only when the man begins to meditate and finds the difficulty. Let him practice pranayama just a little. The mind will be purified. It does not sink into the heart because the samskaras stand as obstacles. They are removed by pranayama or satsanga. In fact, the mind is always in the heart, but it is restive and moves about due to samskaras. When the samskaras are made ineffective, it will be restful and at peace. By pranayama, the mind will be quiescent only temporarily, because the samskaras are still there. If the mind is made atmakara, one who abides in atma, it will no longer give trouble. That is done by meditation. It is necessary to be aware while controlling thoughts, otherwise it will lead to sleep. Awareness is the chief factor, and is indicated by the fact of emphasizing pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses, dharana, single-mindedness, dhyana, meditation, total concentration, samadhi, absorption, union. Even after pranayama, pranayama makes the mind steady and suppresses thoughts. Why is this not enough? Because awareness is the one necessary factor. Such states are imitated by taking morphia, chloroform, etc., but they do not lead to liberation. Meditation is one form of approach that will drive away other thoughts. The one thought of God will dominate over others. That is concentration. The object of meditation is thus the same as that of vichara. What is the heart? It is the seat, if such may be said, of the self. It is not the physical heart. How to overcome discomforts of the body when sitting for meditation, such as mosquito nuisance. You wish to gain concentration, then whatever happens to the body, never mind. Keep up the same strain of thought, effort. The bodily discomfort will pass away. So do not think of the discomfort, but keep mind firm on your meditation. If you are not strong enough to resist the attacks of mosquitoes, then how can you hope to gain realization? It is like waiting for the waves of the ocean to subside. before you enter to bathe. Be strong and keep up the constant effort. A devotee who asked for Maharshi's grace was told, "You have it," and he felt a throb in the center of his chest, like a slight pressure. He felt happy and extraordinarily peaceful. He asked Maharshi about it later, and Maharshi said, "Hold that sensation firmly whenever the mind is distracted. Your mantra saying is no more necessary." It is called spurana. It is felt on several occasions such as fear, excitement, etc. It is really always there, felt at the heart center. It is associated with antecedent causes and usually confounded with the body. Really it alone. Really it is alone and pure. It is the self. If the mind be fixed on it and the man senses it continuously and automatically, it is realization. For now, it is a foretaste of realization. How does a householder fare on the path? Why do you think you are a householder? If you go out as a sannyasi, renunciate, similar thoughts will haunt you that you are a sannyasi. Whether you continue in the house or go into the forest, your mind haunts you. The ego is the source of thoughts. It creates the body and the world and makes you think you are a householder. If you renounce, it will only substitute the thought sannyasi for householder and the environments of the forest for the home. But the mental obstacles are always there. The change of environment is not a help, for the mind must be overcome in both places. If you can do it in the forest, why not in the home? Why change environment? Your efforts can be made even now, wherever you are. The environments never abandon you. Look at me. I left home. What do you find here now? Is it different from your home? That is the reason to emphasize sahaja samadhi. One should be in spontaneous samadhi, in his primal state, even in the midst of different environments. Yoga is but a means to concentrate. I find concentration difficult. Go on practicing. Your concentration must come as easy as breathing. Fix yourself to some one thing and try to hold on to it. All will come right. The 6 chakras are mentioned. The jiva is said to reside in the heart. Is that so? The heart need not be taken to be fleshy one. It does not matter. We are not concerned with anything less than the self. About that we have certainty within ourselves. No doubts or discussions. The centers are for purposes of concentration. They are interpreted symbolically. The current of Kundalini is ourselves. Worldly life is so distracting to aspirants. Do not allow yourself to be distracted. Inquire for whom there is distraction. It will not afflict you after a little practice. But even the attempt is impossible. Make it, and it will be found not so difficult. The Kundalini is said to rise from the spinal base. That current is ourselves. Meditation is sticking to one thought. That single thought keeps away other thoughts. The dissipated mind is a sign of its weakness. By constant meditation, it gains strength, gives up its weakness of fugitive thoughts. A form object for meditation is duality. Can it be God? One who questions like that had better adopt the vichara marga, path of inquiry. Form is not for him. In my meditation, a blank interposes. I see no figure. Of course not. Who sees blank? You must be there. There is consciousness witnessing the blank. Does it mean that I must go deeper and deeper? Yes, there is no moment when you are not. When a devotee had been taking only one very light meal a day, Maharshi sharply remarked at breakfast, "Why don't you leave off taking coffee also?" His implication was to rebuke the overimportance placed on diet regulation by the devotee. What is renunciation? Giving up the ego. Is it not giving up possessions? The possessor, too. How to root out the sex idea? By rooting out the false idea of the body being the self. There is no sex in self. Be the real self. Then no sex troubles. Can fasting cure sex? Yes, but it is temporary. Mental fast is the real aid. Fasting is not an end in itself. There must be spiritual development side by side. Complete fasting makes the mind too weak. You cannot derive sufficient strength for the spiritual quest. The spiritual quest must be kept up right through a fast if it is to benefit spiritually. Which posture is best? Any one, possibly Sukha Asana, an agreeable position, but posture is immaterial for the jnana path. Posture really means steadfast location in the self. It is internal. What time is most suitable for meditation? What is time? It is only an idea. Whatever you think of it, it looks like that. Time is immaterial for jnana path, but some times are good for beginners. It is the attachments which are injurious. The actions are not bad in themselves. There is no harm in eating 3-4 times, but only do not say, I want this kind of food and not that kind. Moreover, you take these meals in 12 hours of wakeful state, whereas you are not eating in 12 hours of sleep. Does sleep lead you to mukti? It is wrong to suppose that simple inactivity leads one to mukti. So long as one thinks that he is a sannyasi, he is not one. So long as one does not think a world illusion, he is not worldly, but he is a real sannyasi. The patient must himself take the medicine prescribed by the doctor in order that he might be cured of his illness. The guru thus prescribes the path too, but the aspirant must himself follow it. Is it better for reaching salvation to be married or to be a celibate? Whatever you think better. There is no difference. Thoughts must cease and the reasoning faculty, manas, disappear. Feeling is the prime factor in meditation, not reason. It ought to come in the right side of the chest, not in the head, because the heart is there. It must be held tight. Your present experience of thought ceasing is due to the influence of the atmosphere you are now in. Can you find the same experience away from this atmosphere? It is spasmodic until it becomes permanent. Practice is necessary. After one gets established in truth, practice drops away naturally. Is meditation analytical or synthetical? Analysis and synthesis are in the region of the intellect. The self transcends the intellect. What is meditation? It is to think about one thing. Therefore, in meditation, try to hold on to one thought, and all the other thoughts will gradually go away. They may be present for some time, but if you resolutely hold to a single thought, they will not trouble you. Our minds are weak through habit, unable to concentrate. We must make the mind strong so as to keep one thought. Absence of mental operations is solitude. There are different postures according to the different grades. The best posture is to be in the self. All these questions of posture and hatha yoga arise only to those who have the body consciousness, i.e., think I am the body. However, the yogis say, adopt that posture in which by experience you find meditation easiest. But you may not necessarily have to adopt a yoga posture. If you find sitting in a chair or walking easiest for you to meditate, these are the right postures for you. Hatha yoga is for beginners. Find the self and remain in it, and you will not be concerned about postures. Why is it so difficult to practice meditation and to conquer the mind? Because of the past vasanas which prevent us. But we must go on trying. Those who take opium or alcoholic liquor are unconsciously seeking the blissful thoughtlessness of the real self. They get an intimation of that bliss by drugs, but afterwards they must resume their normal state, and the craving comes back stronger till they become chronic addicts and slaves. To all such artificial rises there must be a fall back. If the mind is subdued, everything is conquered. What is renunciation? What is renunciation? It is not outside of us. It is here, in the heart. Where is solitude? In the mind. We must achieve these things within ourselves. The kingdom of heaven is to be found within us. If the efforts at meditation are hindered through past karma, what remedy can there be? It is self-stultifying to drown oneself in such fanciful fears. Fate and past karma relate to the external world. Dive boldly within you. These will not hinder you. It is the thinking of hindrances that forms a serious hindrance. We have all to return to our source. Every human being is seeking its source and must one day come to it. We came from the within. We have gone outward. Now we must turn inward. What is meditation? It is our natural self. We have covered ourself over with thoughts and passions. To throw them off, we must concentrate on one thought, the self. When is mauna silence necessary? It is but one of the aids used to attain realization. Once realization is complete, it can be cast aside, for it will be of no further use. Realization is itself, mauna. Speech is regarded by Maunis as a waste of energy, which they are directing inwards towards the self. One method of securing the temporary cessation of mental activities, manolaya, is association with sages. They are adepts in samadhi, and it has become easy, natural, and perpetual with them. Those moving with them closely and in sympathetic contact gradually absorb the samadhi habit from them. What is the mental concentration except that it is meditation? Vocal japa becomes mental, which is the same as meditation. The whole cosmos is combined in one pinhole in the heart. A tiny hole in the heart remains always closed and is opened by vichara, investigation into the self. The result is I consciousness, the same as samadhi. How can the all-immanent God reside in the heart? Do we not reside in one place? Do you not say you are in your body? Similarly, God is said to reside in the heart. The heart is not a place. Some name is mentioned for the place of God because we think we are in the body. This kind of instruction is meant for those who can appreciate only relative knowledge. Being immanent everywhere, there is no place for God. Because we think we are in the body, we also believe that we are born. However, we do not think of the body, of God, or of method of realization in our deep slumber. Yet, in our waking state, we hold on to the body and think we are in it. Paramatma is that from which the body is born, in which it lives and into which it resolves. We, however, think that we reside within the body. Hence such instruction is given. The instruction means, look within. The heart is not physical. Meditation should not be on the right or the left. Meditation should be on the self. Everyone knows I am. Who is the I? It will be neither within nor without, neither on the right nor the left. I am That is all. Heart is the center from which everything springs. Because you now see the world, the body, etc., it is said that there was a center for them called the heart. But when we are actually in it, then heart is neither center nor circumference, for there is nothing else. What are you? Are you the body? No, you are pure consciousness. Retirement means abidance in the self, nothing more. It is not leaving one set of surroundings to become entangled in another, nor even leaving the concrete world and wallowing in mental world. The birth of the sun, his death, etc., are also in the self. The question of compatibility does not arise. You see that squirrel? It's awaiting an opportunity to run out. All wish to run out. There is no limit to going out. Happiness lies within and not without. What is the significance of the spot between the eyebrows? That is mentioned as if to say, do not see with your eyes. The mind functions both as light and as objects. If divested of things, the light alone will remain forever. But you must know there is such light. Sight or cognition pertains to the present state because there is light. Light is the essential requisite for sight. It is plain in our daily life. Among the lights, the sunlight is the most important. Hence they speak of the glory of millions of suns. How does it affect the subject, whether the objects are seen or not? If the light, i.e. the cognizer or the consciousness, is seen, there will be no object to be seen. Pure light, i.e. consciousness, will alone remain over. It is not enough that light is seen. It is also necessary to have the mind engaged in a single activity. For example, the elephant trunk and the chain. Why is regulation of breath necessary? Concentration of breath or its regulation is only for controlling the mind so that the mind may not wander about. Is there difference between internal and external samadhi? Yes, there is. External samadhi is stillness while witnessing the world, without reacting to it from within. The external samadhi is like a still sea, and the internal samadhi is like a steady flame. Sahaja samadhi is the identity of the flame with the ocean. Does not one lose his body consciousness in samadhi? If so, how can there be a difference? What is body consciousness? Analyze it. There must be a body and consciousness limited to it, which together make up the body consciousness. There must lie in another consciousness, which is absolute and unaffected. Hold to it. That is samadhi. It exists where there is no body consciousness because it transcends the latter. It also exists where there is the body consciousness, so it is also there. What does it matter whether the body is lost or retained? When lost, it is internal samadhi. When retained, it is external samadhi. That is all. But the mind does not sink into samadhi even for a second. A strong conviction is necessary that I am the self, transcending the mind and the phenomena. Nevertheless, the mind proves to be like a cork at my attempts to sink it. What does it matter if the mind is active? It is so, after all, on the substratum of the self. Hold to the self, even during the mental activities. I cannot go within sufficiently deep. It is wrong to say so. Where are you now, if not in the self? Where should you go? All that is necessary is the stern belief that you are the self. Say rather that the other activities throw a veil on you. Is there any harm in my continuing japa in this manner, or is it essential that I should only do the bare "who am I" inquiry? No, you can trace the root of any thought or japa or mantra and continue to do so until you have an answer to your query. That is, in itself, meditation in the right direction leading you to the same goal as the who am I inquiry.